The other day, I said that marriage should be hard to get out of. That, in fact, the person filing for divorce should have to cite a fault, a significant fault of the other party, whether that be abuse, abandonment, addiction, infidelity, and moreover, the person filing should have to provide reasonable evidence of that fault to a judge in order to obtain a divorce. So, naturally, because I said this, cue the outrage over women and how I hate women and abuse women and how challenging it is to prove abuse. But the thing is, I'm not speaking about abuse. I'm speaking about the institution of marriage and whether it has any sanctity at all and whether it is sacred. Trust me when I say that I actually do not need a lecture on abused women. But abuse is already illegal. Now, please hear me. I'm not saying that abuse never happens because it's illegal. That would be a foolish thing to say. But abuse is already against the law. There are already protections and provisions in place for a person who is abused or at threat of being abused. But what I am speaking about is whether there is any protection of marriage. Whether the marriage vow that you took is binding, whether one party can dissolve a contract merely by citing irreconcilable differences, whether marriage should be almost as easy to get out of as a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and in fact, I would say to that, no, it should not be. And if you would say otherwise, I would very much suggest that you remain either a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Most men are not abusers or would-be abusers. Most husbands are not abusers or would-be abusers. In fact, the vast, vast majority are not. And I know that you all watching this understand that and agree with me. So because of that, I'm not interested in penning divorce laws for the minority. Of course, laws have to protect the minority, but we should not be catering laws specifically to the minority, to the lowest common denominator. We should not be penning divorce legislation as if every single husband or wife is possibly an abuser. And so this has to be really, really easy to get out of. We don't have to ask anyone to prove anything. They can just say irreconcilable differences and there you go. There are already, as I said, provisions and protections in place for abused persons, people who are abused by their spouses. Incidentally, there are more provisions and protections in place specifically for abused women, even though women initiate domestic violence at least as much, if not more so, than men. No one is trying to force someone to stay with their abusive spouse. No one, except for Democrats during COVID. It is not my goal that you be trapped in with your abusive spouse, not at all. But you can physically separate from your spouse even when a divorce is not final. That's the case even today, even with our no-fault system. You can physically separate from a dangerous situation even when the divorce is not final, whether you cite fault or otherwise. But again, I do not want to treat marriage and divorce as if every single husband might be an abuser. And so we have to put that into our laws and make it very, very easy to dissolve this contract, this vow, this institution. No. And if you think differently, then I would say that any woman who files for divorce and does not cite fault should be entitled to nothing. And I would say the same thing about a man. Marriage is the bedrock of our society because families are the bedrock of our society, and families, strong families, do not happen without strong foundation of marriage. So when you protect marriage, you protect us all. You protect society.